You're listening to Local Color on WNCW, and joining me on the phone now is Kevin Cassels of the Asheville-based band Mother Vinegar. Hey, Kevin, thanks for calling in.
Thank you, Kim.
Well, you're the drummer for Mother Vinegar. Now, who are the other members?
Well, we have Carl Engelman, who is kind of our guru. He writes most of our songs, and he plays many instruments, but mainly guitar and vocals. And we have Tommy Dennison on lead guitar, and Jeff Hinkle on the bass. And Jeff is also in Big Block Dodge, a band that plays around here quite a bit. And Tommy's played in a bunch of local bands as well. And Carl originally comes from a band called Alibaba's Tahini, which was really popular Midwestern group. And that group included Jake Sininger from Humphreys McGee. And when they split, Carl moved down here, and I hooked up with him a couple years later.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that, so let's just go ahead and jump to the Humphreys McGee connection, and that's the biggest part of it, I guess, but they've done some of the tunes that you guys do, don't they?
That's correct. When Jake and the rest of Alibaba's disbanded, he brought a large part of their catalog over to the Humphreys McGee repertoire, and he covered a lot of songs that Carl wrote on his own as well. Carl went on to play in a reggae band and do some other projects where he couldn't really play those songs. So those songs kind of lived on in the Humphreys McGee concert database, and then as they grew more popular, the songs themselves grew more popular. And, now Carl finally has a rock band together where he can perform those songs as well. So a lot of people don't know those are covers, really. They're kind of only known from Humphreys McGee, and only some of the real hardcore fans know that those are actually written by Carl. So it's nice to do those songs in a completely different context, the way they were originally supposed to be written, as opposed to the new arrangements they have.
Well, for folks who are listening who are familiar with Humphreys McGee repertoire, what are some of those songs that they would know that are actually Carl Engelman compositions?
Well, they haven't put any on their albums, but they're a live band.
Mm-hmm,
so
right.
And they saw a lot of their live shows: Bright Lights, Big City, Kabump, Syncopated Strangers, Resolution, Got Your Milk Right Here, and a song called Party and Peeps, which is one of their most popular tunes. And that was co-written, actually, by Jake and Carl. And Alibaba's got back together after a 5-year hiatus or so, actually here in Western North Carolina. Jake kind of snuck down here for a week, and they did an album and wrote some new songs, and that's one of them, and some of those live on in our catalog as well.
Well, everybody in the band has been around the block a few times as far as playing with other bands, and you as well. Haven't you played in other bands?
I played in a lot of bands for a long time in Atlanta, which is where I'm from, and also at Western Carolina, as I went to college there with Tommy. And Tommy and I have been playing together on and off for about a decade. Actually, he's a couple years younger than me. He used to have to sneak into the clubs in Cullowhee to come see us because he was underage. And over time, this little snot-nosed kid just became a really great guitarist. And I just knew we were such good friends that we had a really good musical connection. And I knew whatever musical projects I wanted to get together, that he would join me. And so when I got in touch with Carl to form a band, I knew the first phone call I was going to make was to Tommy. But around 2000 or so, I took off from the drums and did a couple other projects. I wrote a book about fish and opened my own business for a while. And so I was kind of rusty when we came back behind the drum kit in around 2004 or so when I started playing with Carl.
When you were talking about you started another business, it was a music store that a lot of people in the Asheville area may fondly remember.
Yeah, good music and other stuff on Broadway. And we used to have a lot of in-store performances and concerts, and we had a great crowd. And, with the iPod and the downloads, I just had to make a tough decision. We didn't really collapse, but I just decided it was time to move on, that the nature of the business was not looking too good. And then, of course, we had a couple other stores around Asheville closing as well. So I thought before it got really bad, it was time to just move on and focus on something else. Plus, I really wanted to focus on the band, and none of us are getting any younger either. So I figured I ought to put all of my energy towards Mother Vinegar, because I really do feel like we have something special.
We're talking with Kevin Cassels, the drummer for Asheville's Mother Vinegar. Let's turn our attention to the new CD. It's self-titled, and let's talk about some of the tunes on here now. Before we got started, you and I kind of compared notes as far as the tunes that we really wanted to highlight, and we agreed on just about all of them. The first one is the lead-off track, Big Dreams. That's kind of a punk thing.
Yeah, it is.
Drifting off to bed, surrender thoughts instead, like a spider
the good news about Mother Vinegar can also be the bad news about Mother Vinegar, is that we listen to a lot of different styles of music. And actually, we made the album before we ever played a concert. So in order to get gigs, we would have a good CD. And we spent a lot of time working on it. We're really happy with it. But the thing is that now that we've started playing, we don't really even sound like that anymore. And Big Dreams was, we've actually gotten heavier, but Big Dreams was written specifically to lead off the album. Carl called me when I was at, I think, my sister's wedding and said, I'm going to write a song just for the purpose of opening this album.
I'm jumping in town from one to the next, and seeing the things I thought that were gone. My sense of time is something I don't need. I'm everywhere now, but nowhere at all. Those big dreams, intangible, indescribable.
We really like the way it sounds on the album. The problem is that it's become so identified with the opening track that we don't really know what we're going to do with it live just yet. We've rearranged it and wrote some other things around it. But incidentally, the band has gotten a lot heavier since the record. So Big Dreams is one of those tunes that actually still does kind of sound like our current sound.
Interesting. Well, at the same time that you're saying that the band has gotten a lot heavier, you've also been doing a few acoustic shows around.
Yes, which is a great change of pace. We just really loved the show we played at Soul Infusion. It was a lot of fun, and everybody really seemed to like it. We got to goof around a little bit, and there's some bluegrass and old-timey songs. Carl plays clawhammer banjo, and he's really good at it. But you can't really do that in a club. Maybe when we can afford the equipment and the roadies to pull it off, we'll do it. But the acoustic shows really give us a chance to do things that we kind of mess around with in practice but can't really do in our live show because it's so crazy. So we're really excited about going back there in a couple of weeks to do that show.
Yeah, July the 21st, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, the day
correct.
of that show. Well, another tune on the self-titled Mother Vinegar album is Gypsum Cave, and I guess if you were going to say there was a radio hit on there, it would be that one. And I'm sure I'm not going to be the first one to say it's very J.J. Cale-ish.
It's the feel-good hit of the summer.
In the bloody, bloody city where the heads will roll, they got an alabaster stone-walled room. They got drinks for a nickel and dancing girls that take you out back for a dime. They got murder at the banquet and glasses of wine. They got lonely people falling asleep. And just when you're thinking that the night is done, they shoot to showcase a gun on the wall. The floor is black from the shoes of pagans. No one inside is saved. What can you do? That's the way they like it. Inside the gypsum cave.
I watch a lot of band documentaries, and they always talk about their big songs. Like, I know Black Sabbath has this thing about Paranoid where their album wasn't finished and they had to have one more song, and the producer threw them into the studio and said, you got to write another song, so hurry up. And they came out and it was like this huge hit. Well, I guess it's a huge hit in our zip code, but we had the whole album ready to go and planned out when that song was written. And I think the reason that's acoustic is because Carl and I were up late at night and everyone else was sleeping. And he taught me that tune, and Tommy's actually not even on it. I think he was out eating or something, but he came in and that song was done. And we didn't really think much of it, but then all the fans that come to see our show, they really started liking it, and we were really happy with the reaction we got when we put it on MySpace. So we really enjoy playing it live, and the people seem to like it. The kiddies seem to like it quite a bit.
Well, on the flip side of the feel-good hit of the summer, you have a sitar on there, an instrumental it's a little less structured, I guess you might say.
Yes, we knew we wanted to do a sitar song. We just didn't know what or how, and that's Carl's baby. He, for some reason, Carl plays the sitar, and it was shocking when I found out he did because he's white and under 60, but he knows how to play it, and he actually sat down on a pillow to play it because it's so huge, and he basically wrote this lick, and he told us that he wanted kind of a dance breakbeat thing in the background, And so we laid the drums and acoustic bass down, and then he went back and played a mouth piano, an organ, percussion. One thing you don't really know when you listen, every instrument on there is acoustic. Nothing is plugged in. All the way, it's an acoustic bass, it's a mouth piano, the melodica, the banging is some percussion Carl had. And it's a really interesting track. We had absolutely no idea how to play it live, but we're working on a completely different rock-based arrangement for it, and we'll see what happens. When
you talk a lot about playing these songs live, and obviously you're primarily a live band at this point, at least. Do these songs, like Have a Sitar, seems like one that especially could really stretch out and go in a lot of different directions in a performance?
Yes, and that's what we're looking to do. We do jam live. We jam quite a bit live, but we try not to go on for too long. And we purposely made the album structured and short, and we stretch out quite a bit in concert, but not to the point of where it gets aimless or boring. But with Have a Sitar, instead of solos, what we like to do is textures and swells and kind of an atmospheric type improvisation to it, because that's kind of how the studio version feels as well. So we've been working on one in practice, and hopefully we'll be able to do it by the Orangeville show.
Another tune on the Mother Vinegar CD that both of us agreed that we ought to talk about tonight is Ferris Wheeled City.
In the Ferris wheel city, consequences are plenty. With the girl so pretty, hypnotized by your face.
Well, that's a song about Chicago, and it references the Navy Pier with the big Ferris wheel on the water. And that was the feel-good hit of last summer. That was the first song we ever played together. Tommy and I had not even met Carl. The band formed when I called Carl and said, "Look, I know who you are, but you don't know who I am. Basically, we're going to form a band together." And he's like, "All right, come on down." And Tommy and I went down to his place, and Tommy and I, having been in bands together before, used to rehearsing and learning tunes, and then you record them. But Carl takes everything. And so before we even played a note together, he had the tape rolling. And the very first thing he taught us was Ferris Wheel City, which is good because it's easy. It's basically the same chord progression throughout. And it was a lot more mellow back then in the 4-track days before we had Jeff in the band. And it was the first song we ever played live, and we haven't played it quite as much yet, just because we're kind of tired of it at this point. But it's really worked out live. We really like it a lot.
Another tune on the Mother Vinegar CD, it's toward the end, and it's really brings out the funky side, is Pimp in a Pinch.
Well, like many of our songs, it's vulgar. But,
At least you're just upfront about that.
Yeah, only implying the vulgarity, no actual vulgarity. That's later on in the album. But kind of a Fat Albert funk 70s type of sound. Carl recorded that years ago by himself on a demo tape. And between the years of Ali Baba's Tahini and Mother Vinegar, Carl was living in Hayesville, Georgia, and he made just a ton of 4 tracks by himself. and we kind of rated those to fine tune. And we really liked Pimp in a Pinch. We sped it up just a little bit, and that's Carl on kazoo in the chorus.
In a tent. Had to wipe the sweat off my lip.
That's one that we stretch out quite a bit live. After the main body of the song, we kind of take it off in different directions. It works for us early on in the set, too. It lets us loosen up a little bit, stretch out with a few guitar solos and improvisational jams. So,
talking about your live performances, there are a few coming up in the near future that we should mention, and we kind of have already a couple of them. On July the 21st, an acoustic show. Now remind us where that's going to be.
That's going to be at the Soul Infusion Tea House in Silva, about 5 minutes from Western Carolina. And then we've got one Saturday, July 15th, which is very soon, and that's in Bryson City at Across the Tracks. We're going to be playing a long electric set there, about probably 3 hours is what we usually do there. And the big one that we're really excited about is the Belshare kickoff concert at the Orange Peel. We're playing with Marsupial, the Trainwrecks, and Kung Fu Dynamite. We're going to be headlining that show, and we're super pumped about it.
And that's on Thursday, July the 27th.
Correct.
Yeah. And the Rocks Away Music Festival, going to be headlining there in September. I'm not familiar with that festival.
I believe the first year was last year, but it's the same venue they did Smile Fest this year.
Oh, okay.
It's on Lake Toxaway, hence the Roxaway name, and it's near Brevard. And a guy named Andrew Hoover with Smoky Mountain Productions, really great kid from Western Carolina. He's in a band called After Dark. They put on the first one last year, and we played there too. It was like our fourth show ever, and we were really nervous. But this night we've got a really nice slot on Friday night, I believe, September 22nd at 10:30, and then the Sea Peoples come on after us. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And if I noticed too that if people want to kind of get a taste of you live on the internet, there's something. Is it up yet? There's going to be a concert up at archive.org.
Yes, and we're just a couple of days away from that. A good friend Cameron Parker from Las Vegas came down to do Mother Vinegar tour. He did a little 3-show run and taped all of our shows. And we haven't been taping our shows for some reason. I'm not really sure why.
That's very strange to be the kind of band you are.
I know, and we're kind of upset that we didn't. But we've got three good shows. We've got one from Knoxville, one from Bryson City, and one from Andrews, North Carolina. And Jake and Brendan Bayless from Humphreys sit down on a couple of songs. And we're going to take the best of those 3 shows and put them up on the archive. I think it's archive.org.
Right. Kevin Cassels of Mother Vinegar. The new CD is self-titled. From what I was able to see on the internet, I think the best place for folks to get in touch with you is at your MySpace page. Lots of stuff there.
Yes. We're revamping what's going to be a really nice mothervinegar.com. But for right now, myspace.com/mothervinegar. A couple of tracks from the album and a couple of live tracks from our first show at the Orange Peel. And those tracks we're going to switch up and try to mix up the live tracks every few weeks. And you can get in touch with us and look at some pictures and see what's going on with the band. We do a blog every few weeks just to let everyone know what's going on.
And we look forward to having the band here live in our Studio B coming up very shortly. That's in the works, so we'll do that very, very soon.
Yes, definitely excited.
Kevin, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on a great new record.
Thanks a lot, Kim. Have a good day.